Part 1 of Criminal Manchester, Experiences of a Special Correspondent, reprinted from the Manchester Evening News. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 1. Charter Street, Past and Present. The truth of the rather trite saying that half the world knows not how the other half lives is so generally acknowledged that ignorance of certain phases of life in our city can be pleaded with equanimity by the vast majority of us. We do not take the trouble to inquire what is going on in circles very far below us, and are as little acquainted with the existence led by the poverty-stricken or the vicious in our back streets and courts, as if a great gulf divided us. Their ways are not our ways, and it is only when the light shed by policial or other authority is turned upon this hidden underworld that we see aught of its nature. But this light is in many respects a false one, as it illuminates but the more salient features and belongings of the scene it reveals, leaving in greater darkness much that is important and characteristic. We accept the revelation given, and do not care to venture beyond the circle marked out by this artificial guide, for we are as little fearful of prying too deeply into the secret of the minority that is at times so troublesome and dangerous. In spite of all this, the maxim that has been applied to the highest class is applicable to the lowest. You may keep this minority out of sight and out of mind, but it is tenacious of life, and is one of the estates of the realm. Being so, it is worth examining curiously, and from the knowledge gained by temporary association with what is termed low life, I may be able to give some idea of what is transpiring even now in our midst among the outcasts and pariahs of the community. How the association has been formed matters not, save that it had its present purpose in view, and was not called into being by idle curiosity or senseless intrusion. Piloted by one who has returned but recently from penal servitude, or, as he would say, from doing a seven stretch, I sank my identity for a time, and gained an insight into crooked life, which is at once interesting and novel. I must first explain that in Manchester there are 4 districts in which are located our criminal population, which may be enumerated as Charter Street, part of Deansgate, Ancoats, and Gaythorne. The first named is bounded by a portion of Rochdale Road, Angel Street, Crown Lane, part of Redbank, Beswick's Row, Long Millgate, and a number of streets leading up to Smithfield Market. This is the headquarters, practically, of the thieving fraternity, and with it I will first deal, leaving a description of the other districts to a future article. My guide, keeping his appointment in Long Millgate with marvellous punctuality, we commenced our wanderings into what was to me an entirely unknown locality about 10 o'clock at night. We struck off at once in the direction of Charter Street, and on the way I was entertained with a long and querulous complaint on the bad state of business, which is worth reproducing. It was to the old tune of Times Was Then, and contained a vast amount of information as to the former state of affairs at a period not so very far distant. He remembered, 7 or 8 years ago, how the street, Charter Street, was just as it should be, and what could be done in spite of all the D's, detective police, in the city. In the middle of the day, from 50 to 100 men, known thieves every one of them, could be seen loitering at corners, pattering away in groups of their doings on their various lays, and laying plans for their next work. If the face of a known constable in plain clothes showed itself at a corner, they were off into entries and houses in a second, and the street would be as deserted as if no crowd had been in it. In at the front door and out at the back, over the yard walls as quick as fear could make them scramble, for each one knew he might have been spotted for some little job he had done, and it would not be worth while to wait and be lagged. Not that they went always quietly, for the street had weapons of its own, and when a rescue was attempted it fared ill with the officers. In many a house was kept hidden a supply of stones, and these were used with great effect. Before the disturbance, not half a dozen could have been found on the roadway, but when all was over they could be counted by the 100. Many a hard fight was waged with the police, who did not always come off without serious hurt. Joe Hyde then kept the London Tavern, which was recognised as the great
Sample complete. Ready to continue?